Hey everybody, so I wanted to talk today about something that I feel like gets kind of overlooked oftentimes in the fitness industry and sometimes by trainers and coaches as well, and that's the topic of maintaining your weight loss. So obviously there's a ton of information out there. There are a ton of different diets, there are a ton of different approaches for losing weight in the first place. And it's almost like there's not really a plan for afterwards. And that's part of what leads to these cycles of yo-yo dieting and of losing weight and then gaining it back, is because there's not much of a plan for what to do once you lose the weight. So if you're watching the replay and you don't know me, my name is Esther Avant. I'm a personal trainer and nutrition coach, and I work with women to help them undergo body transformations. In doing so, they lose weight, they become healthier, happier, and more confident, and they make those changes by making small and sustainable changes to their day-to-day lives. So in essence, they're not just transforming their bodies, but their lifestyles as well. So like I said, today I want to talk about maintaining your weight loss. Obviously, for very most people, your goal isn't to just lose weight fast and then gain it right back. But unfortunately, that's what a lot of people do. That's what most people do. And if you are listening to this, I'm sure either you can think of yourself or you can think of someone else who's been in that exact cycle, that you successfully lose weight using, whatever methods, but then the weight comes back. And there are a couple reasons that can happen. One is that you are not taking a sustainable approach, that you're doing something, along the lines of a crash diet or a fad diet where you're taking kind of extreme measures. And yes, you're losing weight, you're eating at a calorie deficit, you're exercising, you're dropping the weight, but what you're doing isn't feasible long term. So what happens then is when you reach the end of whatever you're doing, the end of your 30-day diet or your 14-day diet or your 10-day fast or whatever, then you go back to doing whatever you had done before, and with it, the weight comes back, which is exactly that cycle of restricting and then, gaining the yo-yo. So what I want to talk about today is the number one thing that you need to do in order to maintain that weight loss. And as I was, kind of outlining this video in my head, I thought of a gentleman that I knew when I was working in corporate wellness, and our location, our gym, would do an annual, Biggest Loser competition. And the idea was that they would, we would do nutrition seminars and we would hold classes and we would give education, and they had, I don't remember how long it was, but like a 6-week period or something to try to lose as much weight as they could. In hindsight, probably not the healthiest promotion that we could have been offering, but it was catchy. It was when Biggest Loser was kind of at its prime, and that was in everybody's head. The reason I'm telling you that is because the same guy won it 3 years in a row. And he was not a thin guy. He was one of the more overweight members that we had. And I remember him saying, they'd come in for the weekly weigh-ins, and he was down, a significant amount of weight each week. And I remember him telling me, I'm really good at losing weight. And I remember thinking, well, the point isn't to be good at losing weight. The point is to lose the weight and then be good at maintaining that new lower weight. So what I've learned is the missing piece after seeing this exact yo-yo cycle in a lot of people, is that when you are now in a position to be maintaining your weight, you need to have built the skill set and the habits and the tools to master the basics. And that's exactly where the difference lies. That the people who can successfully maintain their weight loss have mastered the basics. Maybe they have taken some short-term or some more restrictive approaches at times, but they have the minimum skills to get by when they're trying to just live. Is they're not having to do these extremes because they have the necessary skills. They've mastered the basics, and that's what I really want to stress in this video today. Is, sorry, I keep bumping the desk with my knee, is that you need to master the basics. And if you're not sure what the basics are, I'm going to go over those in a second, but before you do anything extreme, before you go down the long-term fat loss, the short-term fat loss road, before you try any 30-day or 14-day or whatever, however many days, 72 hours, whatever, before you try an approach like that, you need to have mastered the basics. There are some really good, really successful, like higher skilled approaches out there, more advanced techniques that do work for a lot of people, especially if you're in, the last few pounds that you have to lose and you do have a good grasp on the basics. Sometimes it is beneficial to get into more advanced techniques like carb cycling or counting macros or intermittent fasting or things like that. But going into any of those things blind, like knowing nothing, they might work for you, but what's going to happen when you stop doing them? So you really need to make sure that you have a good grasp on the nutrition basics before you go trying to build on that. And I often use the analogy of building a house, that you need to have a stable foundation before you can build upon it. So that might, it's not glamorous, I know, and that's why you don't hear a lot of fitness and wellness and nutrition people talking about it, is because it's not glamorous. Telling somebody like you need to master the basics is not, not a glamorous thing, but it's true, and that's exactly what most people need. Is if you master the basics, and that by that I mean do them with extreme consistency, 80% of the time or more. If you are doing that, you likely won't need more advanced or more restrictive approaches, because the basics work. And oftentimes we find ourselves in the positions that we're in because we are not doing them consistently. So before you go making things harder than they need to be, why not start with the smallest things, the simplest things, the cornerstones of healthy nutrition, and then once you get those under your belt, once you're doing those like without even thinking about it, then if you still need to, you can consider a more advanced approach. So what do I mean by the basics? And this is something that I outline in detail in the Body Transformation Guide, which I'll link to the video, so you don't have to take notes or anything. But by basics, I mean you need to be in tune and know what your body's hunger and fullness cues are. There's so much more to eating than just putting food in your mouth. There's, we eat emotionally, we eat socially, we eat for religious or, whatever purposes. And oftentimes we're totally disconnected from that. So one huge part of the basics is getting in touch with your hunger and fullness cues. The best way to start doing that is to slow down when you eat, to start getting, slow it way down, putting your fork down between bites, trying to really analyze with each bite. What does this taste like? Am I enjoying it? And that, eating more slowly, helps you tune into those sensations, the hunger, fullness, which can then help you identify when it's time to be done eating. A lot of us are just in that mindset of like eat until it's gone, like that's how you know. And oftentimes we're eating way more than we even would like to. Our body's saying like, I'm good, I don't want any more, but we just override that. So by slowing down, you start to tune into what your body's telling you and can, kind of call it quits when you're satisfied but not stuffed. And then the second part is to eat primarily balanced meals as often as possible, as many meals as possible. And by balanced, I mean lean protein and veggies every single meal, and then smart carbs, which are unprocessed, as natural as possible, like squashes, winter squashes, and that kind of thing. Those most meals as well, especially before and after strength workouts, and then healthy fats like nuts, avocado, olive oil, in a good handful of meals as well. Especially those further from your workouts, and then getting comfortable with portion sizes, using the hand guide, your palm for protein, cupped for carbs, fist for veggies, and then thumb for fats. So until you're doing those things almost all the time, that's really all you need to worry about. And when you have reached a point that you've lost whatever weight you want to lose, those are the skills that you're going to need to fall back on in order to maintain it without being a crazy person. Because I'm pretty sure that most of you don't want to be the person that weighs and measures and logs every morsel that you eat until the end of time. That's a great way to build some familiarity and to kind of buckle down short term. but you need to have those underlying skills to maintain whatever changes that you make. So if those topics that I just discussed, those areas that I just discussed, are something that you're like, you know what, I probably could use some work on that, download the Body Transformation Guide that's going to lay it all out for you, how to put together your meals, what foods fall into each category, and focus solely on those things until you are truly a master at them, until you do them almost all the time without thinking about it, and then consider more advanced techniques. I'll talk to you guys soon.